Hello, everyone. My name is Julianne Meyer, and this is Own Your Wellness. And I'm excited to be here today. I might not seem like it, but I made the mistake of taking an antihistamine. So I feel a little not as there as I normally would be. So bear with me, everyone. But that does not mean that we are not going to have an absolutely fabulous and fantastic show. So one of the things that we want to talk about, and the thing that I always get asked is, what things can I do to make getting healthy seem a little bit easier to do? So what I'm getting at is, what about these health hacks? What are some things that we can do to make getting healthy so much easier, more streamlined? Why does it seem so hard all of the time? Well, it does not have to be hard. And here's the thing that I'm going to say right now is it's a lot easier than you think it is. And there's a lot of things you've heard a million times, but you think, oh, that's not the secret. It's got to be this, that, or the other, something else besides that, because I don't want to do that, or that's boring, or something along those lines. So, I guess what I want to start off with is what to do about stress, because I don't know about you, but I am not going to make the healthiest choices when I'm feeling stressed out. Not only that, if I'm feeling stressed out, I'm not going to sleep as well. So it turns into this vicious circle. You don't sleep well, you don't eat well because you're tired. You don't feel like cooking. You don't feel like eating healthy. All of a sudden, that greasy whatever that you wouldn't normally, choose to eat just sounds fabulous because you're trying to fill this void, this need that's going on in you. So we are going to talk about stress. So one of the main things that you can do to help alleviate your stress is to actually change the way that you breathe. I know it sounds so silly and so easy, and that's because it is easy. So you want to start breathing through your stomach, all right? So think about this. Whenever you get upset, you start holding your breath. Whenever you're concentrating really hard, you start holding your breath. And it's that shallow breaths that are right here, right in the chest. So I want you to keep your mind on that. And I want you to think about breathing from your stomach. So especially the ladies, this might feel a little weird because you're going to expand your stomach outward and then back in. And you're going to really feel like your belly button is going out like a Santa Claus belly and then all the way back towards your spine. So just think about taking 10 deep breaths, and that should actually really help bring you back to the present moment, get the oxygen to your body and your brain that you need. Because that's the thing too, when you get into fight or flight, symptoms, and that's when like I said, you start making these rash choices. So if you can calm down your nervous system, even for just a few seconds, then you can start making those better choices again. So that's my number one hack for reducing stress, is to stop and breathe. I know it sounds simple, but that's because it is, as I mentioned. So what else? Okay, here's one of my favorites. And this one is a little more complicated to explain, but I'm going to explain it to the best of my abilities. I want you to start taking the things out of your life or out of your way that are keeping you from your fitness and your wellness goals. What do I mean by that? I'm going to give you the best example in the world and you'll understand. All right. So I know this lady who genuinely wanted to work out. This was what she wanted to do. She made it very abundantly clear. And she noticed that in the morning, because that was the one time she could actually exercise, she didn't want to get out of bed to exercise because she didn't want to get dressed. And I don't know about you, but I have felt the exact same way. I could work out, but I did not want to get dressed. Yeah, it seems so silly, but it's very true. A lot of people do that. So what she did was she started sleeping in her workout clothes. I know, which is really actually kind of ingenious. She doesn't anymore. Now she's up and doing the early rise, the exercise all on her own. But that was the one thing that was stopping her and making it difficult to get out of bed, was the idea of, oh my gosh, I got to get dressed. So she eliminated that and took care of it the night before. Then she didn't have to worry about it. So I just love that as a perfect example of, taking the excuses out of the way. Because there's always like one little moment that seems to be where you have to decide, am I going to go this way or am I going to go that way? If you can figure out what that moment is and take that moment away and make it easier on yourself, then boom, all of a sudden your health choices become a million times easier. So that is my number one hack for that, is to just take out that little part where it comes down to willpower, because 9 times out of 10, you don't want to waste your willpower on things that you genuinely want. You want to spend your willpower on other things. So, because it's energy and we only have so much if we're not replenishing. So keep that in mind, everyone, because that is one of the best things in the world. So like for me, what getting up in the morning used to, and this could just even be for life stuff. Like for me, I hated picking what I was going to wear in the morning to go to work. I didn't like my job at the time. So I started picking out my clothes the night before. It made life so much better. So if you can just figure out ways around doing the things that you don't want to do and make it easier on yourself, then you're going to be a lot more likely to either A, do them, or B, enjoy them more. So boom, there's that one for you guys. All right, what else do we have? Let's go into like food prep. This one is a huge one. I need my happy juice. All right, coffee, everyone. All right, so meal prep is a big one. You know, we talk about this all the time and how we need to meal prep for this and make it easier. And the main reason why you want to do something along those lines is it's kind of like Steve Jobs wearing the same exact outfit all the time. It took the guesswork out of making those choices. So if you can pre-design your meals, then you don't have to think about what you're going to eat. Now, if you're anything like me, you go and buy all the food and then you would leave it in your fridge all week long until it goes bad and go eat out every single day instead of eating the food that you just bought because you didn't feel like meal prepping. I know I'm not alone. This happens to be one of the things I hear about more often than not. And I don't know why it didn't dawn on me a solution sooner, but meal prep on a different day. So if you go grocery shopping on Saturday, then meal prep on Sunday. That way you break it into 2 different chores. And that goes back to the last hack I was telling you. Make it simple. Just keep it simple for yourself. It doesn't all have to be one huge chore because nobody wants to go through life if it's going to be a chore. And nor should you have to, right? Okay, what else? Here's a good one. I was just checking my list. All right. Make things harder for you that you want to do. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is make things harder that you want to do. What I'm trying to say is make things harder the things you don't want to do. So let's say you have kids and you've decided that, you know, you want them to be able to have cookies, but it's too easy for you to eat the cookies. So put them up on a super high shelf. So you have to literally think about going up and getting them for yourself. If you want a cookie, that gives you an extra pause before you actually make that decision. So that's one thing that you can do. For me, it was watching TV. I was obsessed with watching TV. And so, but there were still things I needed to watch or shows that I wanted to see. So I wasn't ready to throw out my TV yet. You know what I'm saying? So, so what did I do? I took the remote control and I put it somewhere really high so that I had to get out a little step stool and go get it and all of that. Well, that didn't really work so well for me. So I made it even harder. I took out the batteries and put them somewhere else. So what I'm saying is a lot of life hacks you have to custom design for yourself, and you have to figure out what works. Like most people would be okay to put the remote control up in the back of the closet. They would be fine with that. That wasn't enough for me. Does that mean I stop? No, that doesn't mean I stop. It means that I figure out another step to make it even harder that way. Cause it worked. I didn't watch TV for quite a long time because it was such a hassle to go and get the remote and go and get the batteries. At one point I even made it so that I threw out the batteries. That's how fierce the addiction was. Ugh. All right. Man, there's different things you can do too. So, here's a really good one. All right. So I don't know about you, but I know that this is very true for me. It's true for my clients. It's true for just about everybody that I know. It's amazing how your brain works. Okay. So you have every intention of, oh, I don't know, going to the gym in the morning. And that's just an example, or even in the afternoon, doesn't matter what time it is. And all of a sudden you forget, and then it's too late. So, so I know that I'm speaking to the majority of people out here when I'm talking about this. It's funny how our brain just forgets the things that we want to do. Well, here's the thing that you could do is make it hard for you to forget. Do something so silly that it is ridiculously easy for it. I mean, it needs to be in your face. So, for example, if you have a garage, you might, and you need to, I don't know, go to work in the morning, you might want to put your gym shoes on top of your car so that you can see them and be like, okay, this is where I need to go. So just make it super obvious so that you don't forget anymore. Oh man, I can't even tell you how many times I've accidentally forgotten things until I figured out ways to remind myself. Like I had this assignment from a coach one time to do affirmations in the morning in the mirror. And I kept forgetting to do. I genuinely wanted to do it, but I kept forgetting. So I put the affirmations on my shoes so that before I left the house, I had a reminder that this is something that I agreed to do. All of a sudden I could do it. Once you get going, then you don't need that kind of help anymore. But sometimes your brain, oh my goodness, sometimes your brain just plays tricks on you and it's like, okay, we're not doing this today. So anyway, speaking of food, I want to do something a little bit different. It's a new segment, everyone. I'm pretty excited. I just created it for everyone. And it's going to be what I'm calling the fast food segment. So get ready for this. All right. So there we go. Those are some of my favorite breakfast cookies ever. And I have to say that I did get that recipe from Rich Roll. If you guys are not familiar with Rich Roll, check him out. He's an amazing over-the-top athlete. And he's a really cool dude. And that's one of his recipes. And I love my cookies. So I'm not giving them up. So I might as well make them healthy so I can still enjoy them, right? All right. So part of the reason why I kind of like to break it up a little bit so it's not, I don't know, like me just talking at you constantly. So that's why I wanted to put in something fun and do a little recipe for you guys. And yes, Helene, you can have a cookie. Sorry, this is a comment from one of the viewers. Anyway, what I was trying to say was that I want this to be as fun as possible. So if you guys have any, desires for certain types of food or anything that you want to maybe make healthy, I used to have a food making business called Healthy Ripple where I used to do that. So we can do that on the show and make it really fast like that, teach you how to do it, but a healthy version. So if you want, just reach out to me. Let's connect. It's right there on the screen. Let me know. All right. So let's get back to some more health hacks because there's certain little things that would make life so much easier. And one of the ones that I would have loved to have learned a million years ago has to do with eggs. Now, I don't know if you guys know that when you crack one open, the yolk should be orange, not yellow. If the yolk is yellow instead of more orange, then that means that the actual egg is not as healthy. And then also the yolk should not spread out across the pan. It should stay pretty much in the center. There's a slight problem with the health of the chicken if the eggs are not like that. But what do you do when you just want to know, like you've had some eggs in the refrigerator for a week and a half. Are they still good? I don't know, right? So do you want to risk it or do you want to, just how do you want to know if they're good or not? So here is the hack about how to tell if your egg is actually still edible, even though it's been sitting in your fridge for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, hopefully not that long. Anyway, so you put them in water. You put an egg in water. You don't have to hard boil it. Now, if it sinks all the way down to the bottom, like just boom, then it's absolutely fresh. So it's pointed like it's sitting up on its little hiney. Now, if it's on its side, then that's perfect for hard boiling. So that's two different parts. But if that egg does not sink at all and it floats to the top, it is no good. Throw it out right away. So just so you guys know, that's how to deal with eggs. Because it kind of sucks when you're like, is this okay to eat? I don't know, because even if you crack it open, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. So that's one of my favorite hacks, just to understand whether or not it's safe to eat. Is to tell it how to tell if it's safe to eat is by seeing if it floats in water. All right, what's another health hack? Ooh, I've got a really good one. Okay, so how about, and my parents do this actually, and I love this idea, but it is that they eat their dinner at lunch. So what do I mean by that? I mean, you have your big meal at lunchtime and your smaller meal at dinner. Because if you think about it, you don't need as many calories before you go to bed, unless you're like somebody that gets really hungry in the middle of the night, then I probably wouldn't switch this. But it makes more sense for most people to switch those meals out because then you have all that food to, all that energy to power you through the day. So my suggestion is to eat your healthy dinner at lunchtime instead of at dinner time. That's another hack as well. And it can also aid with your sleep because you're not trying to digest as much later at night. If you're eating early anyway, then it's probably won't matter too much. But if you're eating healthy, then you definitely want to have your dinner at lunchtime. A lot of people, they do that in Europe too. So just a suggestion and just a little life hack. It works great for a lot of people. So keep that in mind. Now, something else. What do you do when you have, you bought all these herbs and you maybe bought them for one meal and they're about to go bad and you spent like $10 on all these herbs because you got 3 or 4 different kinds and they're all going bad. Well, you may not know this, but you can freeze them. Either you can freeze them just as is, which isn't as much fun, or you can put them in an ice cube tray with some olive oil and freeze them like that. So all you have to do when you're ready to cook is pop out an ice cube and boom, you're ready to go. Not only are you not wasting food, but you've got something that's good to go as if it's fresh. So there's another little life hack for you. Health hack, I should say. So something else, let's think about this. So speaking of frozen, it made me think of this just off the top of my head is a lot of people don't realize how good frozen food can be for them. So if you're going to pick either fresh or frozen, sometimes frozen is actually better, because the second something is picked, it starts to lose its vibrancy, its life. Think about it. It's dying because it's been picked. So how long did it take to get to you? Did it come from Mexico and had to be shipped up here? How long has it been sitting on the shelf? How long did it take since it was picked from that field to get to you? So sometimes it's actually better to eat frozen food, and it's easier to cook frozen food sometimes when you're in a hurry. So that's something to keep in mind as well, because it's a nice little life hack. So the one kind of vegetable that I would try and stay away from, unless, it's a financial thing, is I would definitely try and stay away from the canned vegetables, because they have a lot of sodium and they are just not as healthy. Now, you know what I'm going to say, right? You know what I'm going to say. It's not all or nothing. If that is what you can afford, and that is still a step above Twix bars, it's still a step above so many different things. So no shame in the game if that's the kind of vegetables you're actually going to eat. Because if you are not going to actually eat the fresh vegetables, but you'll eat the canned, then go for the canned, because those are the ones you're going to eat. It's like when people ask me, what's the best exercise? I always say it's the one that you actually do. So keep these things in mind, but remember, you do the best you can, and that is more than enough. I just want you guys, I know I say this all the time, but I want you to have options. And that way, when you get to that point, you're ready. Let's say you start off, you haven't touched a vegetable your whole life, right? So now you're eating canned vegetables because you can stomach those. Those ones, those are palatable to you. Then you're going to be eating those for a while. Then you're going to be ready to graduate to something else. It never goes back the way it was. It always moves forward. You don't need to go from, Halloween candy as a snack to kale chips, okay, in one fell swoop. It can be a progression of things. So you don't have to go all the way 0 to 100. It's kind of amazing, just making those little tweaks in your diet will make a huge difference in your health. And it's so much easier to make healthy choices when you feel good. Am I right, people? I think I'm right. All right. Well, it is about that time for us to go to commercial break. So, you know what? I think that's what we're going to do. We'll be right back after these messages. Are you someone who is struggling to move forward because you suffered a loss? Maybe you're even finding it difficult to complete the most basic tasks. Are you looking for a way to start enjoying life again without feeling guilty or the resistance to do so? Spiritual life coach Sarah Stockham saw a need for people who haven't learned how to grieve without putting their entire lives on pause. And so she created a program that solves this issue called Choosing Life Right Now. This program is simple and you can do it on your own. If you are ready to learn how to feel your grief while still being able to smile, to honor the sacredness of what took place as a loss, and yet still continue to live with joy, And if you'd like to take care of your whole being with grace and love, then I'd like to invite you to experience her new program called Choosing Life Right Now. Sarah is currently offering her program for the promotional price of $77, but it won't stay at this price for long. To learn more, check out her website. The address is on the screen.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Julianne Meyer, and this is Own Your Wellness, if you're just joining us now. You know, something I forgot to do was welcome everybody who is watching us live. Thank you for being here, everyone. You are very much appreciated. All right. So, here's the beautiful thing about this being my show. I get to choose what we talk about, right? And I was thinking we were going to go straight to Ask Julianne, but there's a couple more, tips and tricks that I really want to make sure that we mention because I think they're important. So one of the things is, especially when I lived in New York, oh my goodness, it was hard to sleep. There were so many different reasons. The stress of just living there was really intense. I mean, it's a different energy for those of you who've never visited, let alone lived in New York City. Anyway, so it made me think about how many times people say, I don't sleep well. I can't sleep. I can't get to sleep. And one of the best ways to work on that, shall we say, is to start a different sleep habit, a sleep habit for bedtime. So what you want to do is train your brain to certain cues and signals as to that it's bedtime. So for example, we hear turn off electronics at 8 p.m. All right, well, that's great. But there could be other things that you add that tell your body it's time to start winding down. Things like taking a bath or drinking a cup of tea or reading a chapter in a book, just certain cues that let your body know that it is time to go to sleep. Now, the problem with taking a sleep aid, and I took them for years, so I can't really, say anything or be judgy. Not that I would, but the thing is that it actually does affect your brain. I don't care if it's over the counter. I don't care what it is. It does affect your brain chemistry. And there are issues whenever you introduce something into your body that isn't coming to you naturally. So, one of the things that I always get asked is about supplements. But the thing with supplements is you can't supplement yourself out of a bad diet. You can't supplement yourself into good health. So you really do need to take care of the basics. And it really is basic. Just pick one thing and stick with it for 30 days. And see how much your life improves. It's so much easier when you see the results. It is so much easier when you don't try and take on more than one thing at a time. Another simple way to think about making these health changes is, and I'm going to use the term from, Alcoholics Anonymous, one day at a time. Think about it one day at a time. You can tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow if I still feel like it. And, like if you're trying to, stay away from sugar, for example, then you say, okay, I'm not going to eat it today, but I can have that tomorrow. Or if you are trying to exercise, well, today's not going to be my day off, but tomorrow can be. If you do that, then it's amazing how much easier it gets to make those healthy choices for yourself. So that's something that I just really wanted to make sure, that we mentioned is about sleep in particular and how to make these healthy choices easier because it shouldn't be that hard. And we make it so much harder on ourselves than it needs to be. So those are two things. But the other thing that I really wanted to mention was, if you're like me, you spend a lot of time in your car. And I do. I spend a lot of time traveling to clients, traveling, for work, things like that. So I've turned my car into a little university. So instead of, zoning out to, gangster rap, for example. I might listen to a book on tape. I know that's dating me. And obviously I don't have a tape recorder in my car, a cassette player in my car, but you get the idea. I might listen to Think and Grow Rich, for example, instead of listening to music. Now, there are benefits to listening to music too. So I'm not saying that there isn't, but why not? If you're stuck in this captive space, why not make the most of it while you're there? You know what I'm saying? I definitely love the idea of turning your car into a mini university. Or, if you're not going to read at night, and you still want to get that information, then a good way to do is to listen to it while you're in the car. It's obviously not going to have exactly the same effect, but it's still better for you than not at all. Once again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. So just remember that is a possibility. You can turn it into a learning session for yourself. For me, I don't necessarily listen to music anymore. I'll use the time to brainstorm, or I'll think about the things that I'm working towards while I'm in my car, so that I don't forget what my goals are. Because if you can keep your eye on the prize, you can get there quicker. So it's pretty amazing, right? All right. I think it might be time for another section. Who is ready for Ask Julianne? I'm kind of loving this music. All right. Now I've got this little banner at the bottom. All right. For those of you who are not familiar with the bowl of questions, here it is. This is it. We've got questions from viewers in here. Let's see what we got. First one up is, are sugar-free treats good for you? No. No, sugar-free treats are not good for you. Once again, it's just sort of anything that's making a health claim is something to be leery of. Just because it doesn't have sugar does not mean it does not have anything else in it. So sugar-free does not equal good. It doesn't equal bad, but it doesn't equal good for you. So keep that in mind when you're picking out your treats. I'm not saying you need to go without your treats, but I would rather you choose something like a good piece of dark chocolate than a sugar-free treat that's good for you, because your body needs to recognize the ingredients that are in this supposed treat. If it's highly processed, I don't care what it is, it's still not going to be good for you. There's all these, I get asked too, because I don't eat meat. There's all these like vegan power restaurants and like veggie grill and places like this. And people are always asking me, is it good for you? And no, it's not good for you, but it's like fast food for vegetarians. So it tastes good and it doesn't have meat, but that doesn't mean that it is good for you. So keep that in mind. Just because something says it's sugar-free doesn't mean that it is going to be a good option because it doesn't have sugar in it. You'd still be better off eating an apple that has sugar in it, because it also has fiber in it and your body knows how to digest it, than it would be to have a sugar-free or a keto cup, whatever that might be. So just keep that in mind. All right, what's next? We got a couple more questions here, people. Let's see. Ooh. I hope this is a good one. Ha! Okay, this is funny, since we're talking about sugar-free. And this is, what's the deal with sugar? Is there a difference between fruit sugars and added sugars? Whew, okay, so there's this whole thing coming out now about how labels can be misleading because it has added sugar versus, date sugar, which is natural, so it's not added. Here's the thing. Sugar is still sugar. Doesn't matter if it is, well, it does matter, because what I'm getting at, let me start over, back it up, reverse it. My brain's moving too fast for my mouth. All right. So there's recreational sugar, and then there's the fruit sugars. Now, too much of anything is not a good thing. So, dates are really high in sugar. A diabetic should not be eating dates. I don't care. They just shouldn't, because it's too high in sugar. It doesn't make it good for you. It is still better for you if you're going to put a pound, like a date in one hand and whatever the weight equivalent of white sugar in the other. It's still better to go with the date than it is to go with the white sugar. But you do want to be concerned about your sugar levels. So if you are trying to correct your gut microbiome so that you're not craving sugar and all of that, then my suggestion is to stay under 20 grams of sugar a day. That's really hard to do because it is in everything. I'm just warning you now, it is not easy, but you can do it. I've done it, so I know you can, because I am a sugar addict. So if there was a Sugar Anonymous, I'd probably be going all the time. But anyway, my point though is try and stay away from recreational sugar as well. And recreational sugar is candy bars. It is, the sugar alcohols, things like that, just because it's, doesn't necessarily, the thing you don't want is for your blood sugar to be spiking and dipping. That's what you're trying to avoid. It's not good for your overall health. So just keep in mind, overall sugar, keep it down and stay away from recreational sugar as much as possible. That's going to be my answer for that one. All right, let's see what else we have here. Oh, what's the biggest problem you see when people decide to get healthy? Okay, so the biggest problem, I actually was asked this, and I was in 2 different magazines, and I was asked this question repeatedly for both of them is what I'm getting at. The biggest problem I see when people are trying to get healthy is going full blast. We're talking from couch potato eating, processed food only, to going to the gym 6 days a week, working out an hour and a half, and only eating raw vegan. First of all, you're going to burn out. You don't even know if that's going to work for you. So that is the biggest problem when I see people trying to make these healthy changes. This is actually one of the health hacks that I didn't mention that I should probably mention now since we're talking about it. Take things slow. Make it really easy for yourself. It might seem too easy. I know people who have just moved their gym shoes for a week from their bedroom to the front door. And that's what they did for their workout for the first week. And then all of a sudden the gym shoes are, in the car. And then the next time they're driving to the gym and leaving. You want to make it as easy as possible for yourself. So don't try and do everything all at once. If you want things to last and you actually want to see how things are working for you, then take things slow. It took you, God knows how long, years and years to get into the shape and the choices that you've been making. So it's going to take a while for things to go back to a healthier way of being. So, and maybe you've never been healthy. That's entirely possible too. So you need to figure out what works for you. So my suggestion is to take things exceptionally slow. It's going to feel snail-like pace. But if you do that, you're going to stick with it a lot more likely than if you try and do everything. Plus, if you do everything all at once, you're going to hurt yourself more than likely. You won't even notice. You won't know what changes are happening in your body because you're making all of the changes at once. So for me, I've done it like that. I've made all those changes at once. And it worked to a degree. I'm not going to lie, it did work to a degree. But then I had to figure out, why am I not exactly reaching my goals 100%? Something isn't right here. So I had to really slow down and take a look at each part of my wellness to see what was missing and what I needed to adjust. So ultimately, you're going to have to take that time. So my suggestion for everyone is go extra slow. Besides, your brain loves going extra slow because it's like yes, you get that dopamine hit once you do what you said you were going to do and you start trusting yourself more. I know it sounds silly, but it works like a charm. So people, take your time. Go extra slow. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Let's see here. We got a good one. I could feel it in my bones. Oh, I'm super stressed out. I never have enough time for me. What can I do? Well, here's the thing. You have the same 24 hours as everybody else does. So I hate to break it to you, but there are plenty of other people out there that are living life not so stressed out. And I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm saying this to wake your wake you up to the idea that you do have the time. You're just not aware of where your time goes. So think about how much time you spend scrolling on social media. Think about how much time you spend reading about the news, or think about how much time you spend watching that new series that's on Netflix, for example. Now, if you think about all this time that you are spending without even being aware of it, you have time for yourself. And you are actually spending time on yourself, but you don't feel fulfilled. So stop, slow down. People, slow down again. I'm always going to go back to that. And breathe and think about, okay, when you go to pick up your phone, what else can you be doing with that time for yourself? When you go to sit down and watch TV and veg out, what you really want is to be present with yourself. So what is something else that you like to do instead that doesn't take thinking? You could read, for example. Your body is going to be so much more thankful. So is your soul. So keep that in mind. You do have the time. You're just not using your time the way that you could be. So I'm not shaming anyone, because as soon as I started taking a look, I realized how much of my life I spent on things that I don't actually care about. Something else you can do for the people that are stressed out is hire people to do the things that you don't want to do. So, for example, we have a cleaning lady that comes to our place. It's $25 an hour. It's worth it. Now I don't have to do that. I get all these extra hours to myself that I never had before, because I hired somebody to take care of that for me. All right. So these are just ideas. We are running low on time, but I want to do one more question before we go to the next segment. Let's see here. Ooh, I love this question. I get this asked all the time. Why should I hire a coach when I can do it on my own? Okay. Nobody needs a coach. I'm just going to say this. LeBron James doesn't need a coach. Nobody needs a coach, but are you doing it on your own anyway? If you're asking me why should you spend money on a coach? Because you're not doing it on your own. That's why. And who doesn't love a cheerleader, someone in your corner? Okay, I'll give you an example that it has nothing to do with wellness that I think is a phenomenal one that everybody can relate to. Doing your own technology. Yeah, you can build your own website from scratch. It is entirely possible, 100%. Or you could hire somebody to do it for you. Taxes. You want to work with somebody who is an expert in that field. You can work out on your own, no problem. I am a personal trainer. I have a trainer. I'm just telling you that it helps keep you accountable more than anything else, and helps you walk through those times that, it's almost like being a bartender when you're in the health and wellness field, because people tell you things that they're struggling with. So that's one of the things that is wonderful about hiring a coach, is that you have somebody in your corner that is 100% rooting for you. So yeah, nobody needs to get a coach, not even LeBron, but you know what? LeBron has a coach, and probably more than one. Actually, I know he does. But my point is that it just depends on if you want to invest in yourself, and if you want to get from point A to point B quicker, easier, and with more grace. If that's what you're looking for, then hire yourself a coach. If you want to try it on your own and see how far you get, great. But at least try an app. At least look to others. Stand on the shoulders of giants, as one of my coaches used to say. You don't have to do it alone. That's the thing, is life is not meant to be, spent alone and doing it alone. So hire a coach if you need to. I know people. Oh, and here's the thing about hiring coaches. I would never hire a coach that does not have a coach themselves. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the same arena. Like a personal trainer doesn't necessarily need to have a personal trainer, but they should maybe have some sort of like a life coach, or if they're struggling with something or trying to get better at something, they should have some sort of coach in their life. I don't know about you, but I am not willing to hire somebody who isn't willing to invest in themselves. If they're not willing to invest and get better, then how can they help you? Ultimately, you're going to outgrow them quickly. So if you want to hire a coach, definitely do that. I'm not here to convince you one way or the other. But there are so many benefits. I mean, it just makes life so much easier. All right. I think we're going to do one more question. But before we do that, we're going to do a new segment. I'm super excited about this one. And this has to do with Drew McCurris. He is a personal trainer. He has been in the business for 20 years, and he's agreed to do segments here on the show for you guys. And let's hear what he has to say.
Be strong.
Hi, and welcome to the first edition of Here's to Your Health with Coach Drew. I am Coach Drew. When I was thinking about what I wanted to speak about in my first segment, I decided that I would share with you information I tend to share with my clients all the time. And that is being healthy, losing weight, feeling good is really not rocket science. I can't tell you how many times over my 20-year career as a personal trainer, I've had clients come to me and say, Drew, what do you think about this paleo diet that I've been reading so much about? What about this keto diet? Drew, what? I just was listening to the radio and they were talking about this celery diet. What do you think? And I always tell them the same thing. I say, look, being in shape, being healthy, it's not rocket science. Keep it simple, sweetheart. Don't overthink it. All you have to do is eat well and exercise. It's as simple as that. Not to overthink it. And all of these things that you hear about for the most part are not sustainable. Think about what happened to Atkins. I mean, it's still around, but remember it was the latest thing that people realized, if all we're really eating is like protein, we're not going to really have a ton of energy. Things like that just aren't sustainable. So what I suggest to my clients is fairly common sense, get your fruits and your vegetables and your lean proteins, drink a lot of water, get a lot of sleep. It sounds basic, but there's a reason that those ideas have been around forever. It's because they work and they're sustainable. The other thing I tell people to do, bottom line, because there is a lot of conflicting information out there about what's good for you, what's not, is listen to your body. Always just listen to your body. Your body knows best. Think about back in the day when you were younger, if you ever tried smoking cigarettes. Your body tried to tell you the first cigarette that you smoked, please don't do this to me, you're killing me, this is poison. Or the first time you drank straight alcohol, your body tells you, look, this is not right, don't do it. And think about even now, like as you get older, some people just tell me, yeah, Drew, when I drink dairy, I get bloated and so I say, yeah, probably don't drink dairy then, maybe that's not good for you. But it depends on the person. Like my girlfriend, she's vegetarian. She looks great. She feels great. It works for her. Me, I definitely need my lean meat, my lean protein. I crave it. My body tends to really value it and appreciate it and crave it. So again, it's whatever works for you. Listen to your body. And then when it comes to exercise, obviously things like weight training are important, especially the older you get. But find something you like to do. Again, keep it simple. You don't have to do what the latest fad is or the craziest new gym that opens that has all these different crazy moves. It could be as simple as doing some yoga or swimming or biking, or for me, it's weight training and pickleball. I'm a huge proponent and passionate about pickleball because it's what I love to do, and so I'm going to more apt to do it. So bear in mind, I'm not saying that things like intermittent fasting, there isn't value in it because there are studies that show that there are. But really when it comes to your health, the best way you can serve yourself is to keep it simple, listen to your body, and do what you like to do when it comes to exercise. Anyway, I'm Coach Drew. I haven't been Coach Drew. I am Coach Drew. And here's to your health. See you next month.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Drew. Appreciate that. That was pretty awesome. Like he said, keep it simple. Keep it simple, sweetheart. Anyway, something that I was thinking about while he was sharing that I want to mention as a really important hack is when you are doing something that you don't want to do because you need to do it, you want to make sure you end on a positive note. Always end on a positive note. You want to bookend the experience so that you're more likely to do it again. So if you end doing something, let's say you're doing some internal work. Let's say you're doing, like you're trying to release some sort of whatever. If you end your session without doing something that makes you happy, you're a lot less likely to go back and continue working on that. So if you are trying to, I don't know, eat something healthy and it tastes like butt or whatever, then first of all, you shouldn't be eating it. You should be trying something else. But the thing is I want you to try ending whatever it is that you're doing on a positive note, doing something that you love. Now, I don't mean eating a Snickers bar when you're done eating your vegetables. I'm talking about something that you truly enjoy. It could be as simple as smelling a rose. I mean, it's just something that you want your brain to not end on that negative note, because if you do that, then like I said, you're not as likely to continue doing that habit because your brain's going to remember it as something negative. And if you know about your brain at all, your brain tries to protect you from things that are negative or it deems uncomfortable. So keep in mind that when you're doing something that you don't find to be all too pleasant, make sure you end on a positive note. It could even be something that you say to yourself. You can make a new ritual out of whatever it is. It could be, for me, when I used to donate plasma, I used to go get, like this healthy drink afterward, and that was my treat. So that's what I want you guys to do, is to make sure that you end on a positive note. So speaking of ending on a positive note, it is almost time for us to end the show. So I just want to say thank you for everybody that's watching live, and those of you who will be watching us again later on as a rerun, Netflix style. Don't be afraid to binge watch. Anyway, I just want to mention too that today's Thursday. I always forget what day of the week it is. This is what happens when you work from home. It's like hard to remember. I know it's either Monday or Thursday because I'm doing the show. But anyway, so I want you guys to enjoy your weekend. Have a great weekend. But what I wanted to tell you about was on Monday's show, we are going to be talking about addiction. And I am not even referring to drugs and alcohol, which we might touch on because those are great examples of what it's like. And they're extreme examples of what it's like to have an addiction. But what I really want to touch on is people that have addictions to things like their phone, sugar, for example, staying up late, watching TV, these habits and these things that do not serve us. That's what I want to be touching on, those things that are hard for us to let go of, that, we really do want to move on and be better for ourselves and show up differently in our own lives. And that addiction is keeping us from doing that. So that's what we'll be talking about on Monday, everyone. And as I mentioned before, I want you all to have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again next week.